Hi everyone, I'm Peter Murray, and today we're going to take a look at the Markbass Little Mark Vintage D2 bass amplifier and the New York 121 D2 speaker cabinet. The Little Mark Vintage D2 is a modified version of the Little Mark Vintage. It has the same great tone, but more EQ control and some other great features that I'll explain in this video. This amp is included in the Markbass Gold line, a series of state-of-the-art products that offer superior quality, gold-plated circuits, top-end components, and new features that have been requested by many customers and artists. The New York 121 D2 cabinet is a larger version of the popular Markbass New York 121 cabinet and features a single 12-inch speaker and a 1-inch voice coil tweeter. First, let's talk about the Little Mark Vintage D2 head. Who is this amp for? The Little Mark Vintage D2 is an amp for any bass player and any style of music. It's ideal for anyone who wants a warm, vintage bass tone in a lightweight, compact, and reliable amplifier. But although it's great for rock, blues, R&B, and older styles of music, it has the tonal versatility to be used for any style. What are the differences between the Little Mark Vintage and the Little Mark Vintage D2? These two amps have the same 500 watt MPT power amp and the same tube preamp. But there are a few differences in the functionality between these two amps. Let's have a look at how these features differ. On the Little Mark Vintage, you have a 4-band EQ with low, mid-low, mid-high, and high. But the D2 version adds SEMI-PARAMETRIC EQ controls for the mid-lows and mid-highs. That means that for your mid-frequencies, you can specifically choose what frequencies get boosted or cut, giving you more control over your sound. So here's where you select the mid-low frequency, and here's where you control how much you boost or cut that frequency. And here's the frequency knob for the mid-high frequency, and where you control the cut or boost of that. Another added feature on the D2 model is the boost control. With this head, you can use the boost knob to set your boost level of up to 12 decibels and turn it on and off using an optional foot switch. Instead of the 3-way switch on the Little Mark Vintage, the D2 version has a switch to turn on and off the old filter, which cuts highs for a more old school sound. On the D2 model, instead of a level out control, the gain knob determines the DI output level. Lastly, whereas the Vintage has a variable knob for the limiter, on the D2 version there's an on-off switch. What preamp and power amp are in the Little Mark Vintage D2? This amp features a ECC83 12AX7 tube preamp with a warm old school tone that's rich in harmonics. It also uses proprietary MPT power amp technology designed by Marco de Virgilis. The amp puts out 500 watts at 4 ohms and 300 watts at 8 ohms. It has a 4 ohm minimum, which means you can use it with 1 or 2 8 ohm cabinets or 1 4 ohm cabinet. What are the EQ controls? The Little Mark Vintage D2 has a 4-band EQ with semi-parametric mid-low and mid-high controls and fixed low and high controls. Each control allows you to cut or boost by up to 16 decibels. The low control cuts or boosts at around 68 Hz. Mid-low can be set at anywhere from 100 Hz to 800 Hz. Mid-high controls any frequency from 700 Hz to 6 kHz, and high is set at 10 kHz. Let's hear how these EQ controls sound. For all the bass sounds in this video, I'm using this beautiful Markbass MB Gold 4 bass. And I'm blending the high quality DI output from the head with the signal from this Audio-Technica AE2500 microphone on the cabinet. And I'm not using any EQ or compression in the mix. What is the old filter? As an additional tone control, the vintage D2 features a switch that is essentially an on-off switch for an old filter, which cuts highs from your sound to achieve a more vintage bass tone. The old filter is pre-EQ, which means that it affects the tuner output, effect send, and DI output. Let's hear how this old filter sounds. How does the boost sound? What does the limiter control do? Other Markbass heads include an output limiter that prevents your signal from distorting as it reaches the speaker cabinet. But the Little Mark Vintage D2 gives you the option to turn off the limiter, allowing a more old school tone by letting your signal distort a little bit when you really dig in. Note that this affects only the sound coming through your cabinet, not the signal from the DI output. This is a unique feature not available on other bass amps, except for the Little Mark Vintage models. What are the features on the rear panel? The rear panel of the D2 includes two speaker outputs, one combo jack that accepts either a speak-on cable or a 1/4 inch speaker cable, and one regular 1/4 inch jack. There's also a tuner output and an effects loop, which is pre-EQ in the signal chain. What about the DI? The balanced DI output in the Little Mark Vintage D2 is a real high-quality DI with a transformer. It's optimized to give pure, full, rich sound at all frequencies and handles extreme transients without introducing any distortion or coloration. Along with the DI output, there's a ground lift switch that allows you to get rid of any hum you might have in your signal, and there's a pre-post EQ switch that determines whether the signal coming out of the DI includes the EQ you're applying on the amp or not. The gain knob controls the amount of signal that comes out of the DI output, whereas the master volume only controls the amount of volume that comes out of the speaker cabinet. What is the size and weight of the amp? The D2 head is extremely portable. It features the same compact size and lightweight as all the other heads in the Little Mark family. The amp is 10.87 inches or 27.6 centimeters wide, 3.27 inches or 8.3 centimeters high, and 9.84 inches or 25 centimeters deep. It weighs only 5.51 pounds or 2.5 kilograms. What can be controlled using a foot switch? An optional dual foot switch sold separately can be connected to the amp to mute your signal and turn the boost on and off. The boost level is set using a knob on the left side of the front of the amp. What amp accessories are available? Accessories for the Little Mark Vintage D2 include the Mark World amp bag, rack ears, and dual foot switch for mute and boost functions. And now let's talk about the New York 121 D2 cabinet. Who is the New York 121 D2 cabinet for? Whether you're using an amp head or a combo with an extension cabinet output, the New York 121 D2 is a great option for anyone who wants a full, clear tone from a portable and lightweight cabinet. Since the cabinet is 8 ohms, you can use it alone or combined with another 8 ohm cab. Or you can use it as an extension cab with a combo amp that has an 8 ohm internal speaker. It does a great job of accurately conveying the sound of your bass and amp, and works well for any style of music from rock to jazz and everything in between. It flatters the natural sound of any bass guitar, double bass, or acoustic bass. How is the D2 cabinet different from the original New York 121 cab? The original New York 121 cabinet is one of the most successful Markbass products to date, thanks to its incredible portability and versatile sound. The D2 version expands on that winning recipe. It's slightly larger, which gives it more bottom end. And instead of a piezo tweeter, as found in the original New York 121, the D2 version has a 1-inch voice coil tweeter, which produces a more crisp, accurate high end. Having the tweeter positioned directly above the speaker helps blend the sound of the two components, increasing clarity and definition. Thanks to the larger cabinet size and the high-quality voice coil tweeter, the D2 cabinet has a wider frequency response, handling frequencies from 41 Hz to 20 kHz, as compared to the New York 121 range of 45 Hz to 18 kHz. Whereas the New York 121 has a sensitivity of 100 decibels SPL, the D2 version has a 99 decibel sensitivity. The D2 cabinet is only approximately 5 pounds heavier than the original New York 121, still light enough to carry with one hand. It's about 3 inches wider, an inch higher, and 5 inches deeper. And with these dimensions, the D2 cabinet stacks perfectly with the Markbass New York 151 cabinet. Try the Little Mark Vintage D2 amplifier and the New York 121 D2 cabinet at a Markbass dealer near you. Thanks for watching.